in order to create a guest experience, you first need to create an employee experience. Are the people that are coming happy to even be there? Are they acknowledged? Are we still just force feeding them hamburgers and hot dogs at the end of a good month? But look at what the number one dealers are doing. People are happy to work there. And when you take care of the people, they're going to take care of you. The idea is to not build a business. The idea is to build people and let your people build a business.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Golden Wrench Podcast, where I get to talk to anybody, and frankly, everybody I want to talk to about the fixed ops side of the business. Now, today, guys, I have a very special guest. He's a little farther north from me, but he's a good friend and some amazing topics, and I'm so glad that we get the opportunity to jam today. But hey, we don't get opportunities like this without our sponsor. So here's a quick message from our sponsor.
For years, I've been saying that you have to process your way to profitability, and no one knows that better than the folks at Repair 360. You all know how important it is to have a fast, streamlined used car reconditioning process. Remember, time kills profit. Getting a used car frontline ready in less time while providing transparent communication between departments is what Repair 360 is all about. With Repair 360's automated used car recon manager, you will drive recon times down while giving sales the visibility they need to stop complaining. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding about that part. Anyways, you have to check out their website at repair360.com and see how they can revolutionize your reconditioning process.
All right, guys. Like I said, I have an amazing guest. I have the one, the only, the oh so famous. She's giggling in the background. I have Shawn Armorer with me. Shawn, what's up? How you doing, buddy?
Jason, really good. Thank you so much for having me. And pretty big intro. I don't know about the famous, but putting in the work for sure.
Infamous. How about that? Should we use that word?
Infamous. Yeah,
dude. I'm glad. I'm glad to see you. For everyone out there that you don't know, me and Shawn have been friends for a while. In fact, actually, me and Shawn became LinkedIn friends, and I remember I was flying back from somewhere, and I got stuck, and I had to be rerouted through somewhere else. And they're like, "We're going to reroute you through Montreal," and I'm like, "I don't want to go to Montreal. Wait a second, I know somebody in Montreal," and I text Shawn. Shawn's like, "Yeah, let's go have dinner tonight," and there we go. That was really interesting. Actually, I was looking at the footage. Truth be told, just to add to the story, and I have to thank you. Yes, we recorded it
in front of everybody. You were legitimately the first person that ever put me on. Legitimately, the first person that ever believed in me. The first person that reached out on LinkedIn. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just kind of scurrying underfoot in my career. I was the BDC manager for the largest Mercedes-Benz dealer in all of Canada. And I was just trying to figure out, okay, well, what's next? And then I just started dabbling with LinkedIn. This is like, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And you reached out, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the orange tie guy. And I was just enamored. I'm like, holy shit, man! Like this guy is super famous, all that. And then when you reached out, it was really cool. Then we ended up meeting, just hit it off. Ended up at the restaurant. You had your cameras all over the place, and it was so cool. I actually still look at the footage today. So big thank you, man. Look at us today.
Look, I remember seeing some of your first posts. I'm like, this guy's got, he's got it. Like they're just, when you can when you see a social media post out there, and you're like, hey man, that guy's got some operational understanding, like just straight up, like, legit. And you connect with those, right? No, go ahead.
Yeah. And that was so interesting that you say that because, part of my work that I'm doing now with my company, BDC Alchemy, it's a high performance BDC coaching. And it was what I always wanted. There's this saying, always become the manager you've always wanted to have. So when I started off on this journey and I actually left the dealer world and I crossed over as a coach and consultant, it was very important for me to make sure that I had my core values in place. And what kind of coach do I want to be? So what's ironic is all the things that you just said. I usually, not usually, excuse me. I used to get into a lot of trouble for speaking up. I used to get in a lot of trouble for being the outlier. I never fit into a box. I mean, listen, I had a lot of bosses. I could listen to instructions, listen to orders, hit targets, hit KPIs, but I have questions. Like, I'm not a robot. I can't just do things. I need to better understand what I'm doing in order to get my passion behind it. I'm a very passionate person. So it's quite ironic today that I'm being acknowledged and noticed by the industry, whereas when I was under the rooftop, it's actually what set me out as an outcast. So
I think it just took a little bit of time. I think it just took a little bit of time because one of the reasons I want to have you on here is because obviously BDC is a huge part of the service experience. And communication is usually the make or break of a good fix ops experience, right? And what's funny is like I remember when we first met, like I said, over 5 years ago. I think most dealerships at the time were still very, very scripted. Everyone's really kind of sticking to a script. They weren't really allowing personalities to come out and be natural and shine, in places. But, that was the direction that I think everybody was heading. And you were just a little bit farther ahead than everybody else. And, and I'm glad to see, that you're now out there and that's what the agenda you're pushing, right? It's like, we don't need to be robotic in our efforts, right? And I know this is going to be one of the topics we're going to get right into. Like we want our team to be able to, allow their personalities to come out and shine, because that's where we get authentic passion from. And Shawn, the difference when you're talking to someone over the phone or in person and they're just being a robot versus somebody that actually really kind of cares, about the customer. They have I guess kind of an attitude of servitude, and they have the intent to want to actually help someone in servicing their vehicle. I'll get off my soapbox and I'll let you jump on yours. But have you seen that transition over the last few years?
Yeah, but listen, I mean, this is a touchy topic, but let's just jump into it. So first things first, you are absolutely right, and I've always been that way. So I always say this. I heard this somewhere. It's not mine, but I say I love it. I heard it and I said, when you prohibit failure, you kill innovation.
Mm-hmm. I like that one.
And one of the things that I associate with that, which it made total sense, is leadership, management, whatever you want to call it. We need to deputize the people in our care. We need to actually trust the people that we're hiring to give them the framework, give them the playbook. There's a definitive blueprint to success, right? But it's more about systems. Build a system, then hire the people and put them inside of the system, and then let this thing just go. For the longest time, our industry, unfortunately, compared to others, and don't get me wrong, I love the auto industry. It's given me everything. It's also taken everything away at the same time. But I just absolutely love our industry. But for the longest time, or as long as I've been in it, like 23 years now, as an industry, we're governed by a month-to-month ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas most other organizations are governed by like quarters, Q1, Q2. And I believe that we are in familiar territory when we talk about chaos, and we are in familiar territory about this month to month. And I think it is this month to month that has, how can I say this? The pressure of this month to month, and the month ends on a Wednesday, and on Thursday, boom, like, okay, last month is already done.
Sure.
Yeah, we never come up for air. And I think what I'm doing with my dealer groups that actually have adopted it, which I'm so excited, is we tend to focus more on trajectory as opposed to the results. Now, don't get me wrong. Results are very important. There's KPIs in place to targets. I understand. But my opinion is when we solve or when we focus or when we solve problems at the results level, it's momentary. You could have a good month. You'll have a bad month, 2 good ones, 3 bad ones, et cetera, et cetera. And then that kind of governs your attitude and it governs, your leadership style towards your workforce. So when you solve problems at the results level, it's momentary.
Yeah, you swing the bat hard enough, eventually you're going to connect and create a decent experience.
Like Babe Ruth.
Yes.
It's the Babe Ruth story, right? So to really make a consistent impact, you can only do so at the systems level. So it's like when you focus on the inputs, your people,
Mm-hmm.
the outputs, the results will take care of themselves. So
No,
if you're not happy with the results, you need to focus on the inputs.
and then that couldn't be more true when it comes to the service experience, right? Like it really does. Here's the thing I find, when it comes to a good fixed ops experience, right? It's never one big thing, all right, that makes or breaks that experience. It is usually a series of little things, all right, that either the advisor did or the BDC rep communicated, and it was that little thing that ultimately created a big experience. But to your point, we end up focusing just on, this big end result. We have to get to the finish line, but we forget the marathon that we have to run, all right, to ultimately get to that finish line. And you mentioned something, and I kind of want to go on it because it's a good segue into our conversation. Is I find right now there are certain people out there that are trying to let's fast track this type of process. Like I think there's new technologies that are coming out that scare me, frankly, to be totally honest with you. And I'll tell you why they scare me is because they're promising this fast track, all right, to the finish line, when it comes to creating a good experience. When I don't know about you, but here's what I know about a good experience. It's just good old fashioned hard work, all right, and consistent execution that gets you to that. And there's not an AI tool out there that's going to get you to the finish line faster. But Shawn, I want to get your thoughts and opinions on this.
On getting there faster?
With an AI skill. Does AI communication in the service department really get us there? Did I just open up a can of worms? Did I do something?
Yeah, kind of. But listen, so with regards to that, this is but we're gonna go in a couple of different areas. When we say we're gonna get there faster, my first question is, where the hell are you going?
Sure. That's a good point.
Where do you need to go that fast? What is the end result really? There is no end result, right? So we need to begin with the end in mind. I'm a very big Stephen Covey guy, the 7 Habits of Highly Efficient People, and one of those is begin with the end in mind. And I've adopted that same principle because we need to better understand, like when we talk about accountability, who's responsible for what? Like you said, there is no one thing.
No.
We're always so focused on that golden pot at the end of the rainbow. Right.
Yes.
But when people just kind of slow down, you'll then realize that there is no golden pot. There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The golden nuggets are actually spread throughout the rainbow, throughout the journey, throughout, like I said, throughout the trajectory. There's so many W's that we can achieve before getting to the end. Because one of my mentors always told me, like you need to govern your day. You need to govern your reporting or your performance daily, weekly, and monthly. Like you could have a bad day, but make sure you don't have a bad week. And too many times what we do is, we talk about communication. The performance is not getting to the front lines quick enough. They'll have one meeting at the end of the week to tell us how bad we did, or in my case, anyway, back in the day, one meeting on what we missed, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't give me the opportunity to fix it. What that does is it actually shrinks my ability to become successful because now you've taken a week away from me. It's so funny, and I hope he's not listening. One of my service managers, I won't say his name, but I still talk to him to this day. And we used to have some pretty theatrical meetings, if you will. And so he pulled me in his office. I'm a service advisor, and I'm a junior service advisor, still learning the ropes. And he waits till the end of the week to tell me like how I could have done better, what I missed, which is cool. I'll take some good feedback. So I looked at him and said, so if I understand correctly, this is great feedback, but you've been watching me fail all week and you've only told me this now?
Yep.
Right? So I think with regards to communication, it's very important, like I said before, that we deputize people with regards to accountability, which for me is not just a buzzword, but we need to better define exactly what the success metrics are. Like I said before, when you focus on systems, when you focus on trajectory, when you focus on your inputs, the results will take care of themselves. So by providing daily feedback, by creating a space of safety, psychological safety for the people that are in your care, oh man, it's a rocket ship. It'll just take off, but it has to be genuine and it has to be approached with tact. And go ahead.
No, look. I think what you're saying here is literally the best practice and what people should be executing on. My concern right now is that there are companies out there and tools out there that saying that you don't need to do that. You can just rely on the piece of technology, right? And so like, look, I'm all for technology that supports the customers from a communicate or supports our team from a communication perspective, right? But I don't think there's any one piece of technology out there that's going to be replacing someone. That's where I want to go with this. Do you think that there's all these new AI, because there's a lot of these AI communication tools pouncing up everywhere, right? That are not taking the best practice that you just articulated. Rather, they're going to say, "Oh, well, your team can actually skip that part because we'll handle it for you." Do you think there's
Well, that's so interesting because with my current partners, I'm on a number of calls from on the consulting side of what I do, just because I'm so in your face, and I'll ask the hard questions when I get when we're looking for vendors or when we're auditing vendors. Uh, Spare me the demo. I know exactly what it is that we need. Answer these questions. I
sure?
think the first thing that I've been seeing out there, which I'm very happy um, for some of the work that I do with regards to my current dealer partners, because I'm able to assist them from making the mistakes from questions perhaps that didn't know. Um, One of the first things is you need to first of all understand what your problem is.
Hmm.
You need to understand what your problem is, because if you don't understand what your problem, they're going to tell you what your problem is. They're just going to cover that surface level solution. Our AI is going to do this, it's going to do that, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. And truth be told, I mean, do we really want to call it AI right now? I haven't really seen. They're selling it
No,
as
it's not.
AI.
That's a good point. It's a good
They're
point.
selling it as AI, but I
They're
can tell
selling
you
it as
right now. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, and I won't name any names, but you probably have it in your store right now. Particular company, I've been going back and forth with them for a while, and whenever I'm asking, like, okay, great, let's do this, and they're like, well, it kind of does that, but we need to do this. I'm like, but that's not what you told us, right? So I think that a lot of people, you mentioned the word quick before, in this explosion of AI, there's a lot of companies doing cool stuff, but at the same time, you got to be careful. There's a lot of companies that are selling this thing as AI, but it's not.
Yes, yes, yes. And I just want to take a moment because I think for anybody out there watching and listening right now, what Sean and we're gonna go farther down this rabbit hole real quick. But what we're saying is that these tools are not replacements for a solid communication strategy. Okay, like they are not. This is not this is not an easy button. We're not saying don't use these tools. It's just I think we're seeing a lot of dealers use these tools in the sense of, well, it's just going to be my easy button or it's going to be my strategy. But in reality, if you're really going to be in control of your experience, the strategy comes first, the technology comes second. Wouldn't you say?
100%. And strategy. One of the things that I do, first things first, when I first meet up with the dealer partners, I don't just take them on. I seek to understand first. So we have
Mhm.
a discovery call, and I ask them specifically what are their pain points. The first thing that we need to understand, specifically to what you just said before, is there is no fast track. Okay, you need to break down whatever the issues are or wherever they're trying to go. You need to break those down in phases of construction. What's phase one? What are we looking to accomplish? Once we've accomplished this, what's phase two, et cetera, et cetera. So, one of the first things that I would recommend to anybody is start from where you are. Understand what your problem is and also understand what you're trying to accomplish.
Well,
So, if
I
you
think that's a
understand
good
what
point.
your problem is and if you understand what, go ahead.
No, I think that's a good point. So let's talk a little bit about some of the communication breakdowns you have seen, because I think there's certain points where the communication breaks down, and that's where we need to go to start with that being a goal. So, give me two or three examples where you see on the fixed op side where the communication breaks down.
Oh my goodness. Number one, from the communication. Well, first things first, let's start at the nucleus, at the precipice of the whole thing. Going on 50, 60 years, this automotive industry's been around, which is kind of crazy because we're still surprisingly, I'm fascinated by this, but we're still dropping the ball at the first step, which is the communication between when the sales when the vehicle has been sold to the service department. That handoff.
Oh, the handoff. Oh yeah, that's true. It's a big drop.
It's still quintessentially the most important thing, because when they sold the vehicle, the customer is telling them, like, I don't know, yeah, they ordered a roof rack during the sale. We didn't have it at parts. They just wanted to push the car out to get their pin on the board. Great. That's what they're there for. Then the customer ends up, I've seen this. Listen, I was on the phone as a BDC agent service. I did it for like years and years. So when people will call me out of the blue and say, yep, so-and-so was supposed to order my roof rack. It's been 2 weeks. Nobody's calling me. Is it in? Whoa. So you find the customer, you find their file over at service, brand new customer. There's no notes. There's no indication. So then it becomes, you talked about before about creating an experience. What kind of experiences does that create?
Mm-hmm.
Sales creates customers. Service keeps them.
Yes, that makes sense. 100%.
So if we're dropping the ball before the first appointment, can you imagine the relationship that we've just created for this individual for the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years at the service department?
Mm-hmm.
So the first things first is the bridging the gap between sales and the service department. Now, if these AI companies truly, and I mean truly, they're very cool. I like what they do. But if these AI companies truly were interested in making a dramatic impact to actually help, I have never been invited. I don't know about you, but you, or anybody else, industry expert, if you will, have we ever been invited to a focus group by an AI company to ask us literally how we do things? Like what are the grains of salt in between process? What are the things that truly matter? That's where they if they want to garner my respect, and it doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be you, but some kind of what case study have you done? You know, there's a bunch of techies, they go into a room, they have this sentiment and if this, then that. Okay, but hold on for a second. Who's working in automotive industry, you or me?
No,
So when you're creating a framework with if this, then that, but what if this, then that? But what if if this, there's 52 different ways that it can go.
Yes. Well,
so I think the accountability from their part is what's missing right now.
I think there's some accountability, but I also think it's just like, look, tools only as good as how well it gets used. And, anytime that a vendor out there, is telling you that this is a hands-off tool, don't walk away from that, right? Like there's just, when it comes to communication, tools should be there to support the communication, not replace the communication. But okay, so this, I'm glad that I got you up on your soapbox right now, because I do want to kind of get into one other topic that I think it's been really kind of interesting, and I think a lot of people, I like the AI one. I think people are going to argue with us, so we're actually going to get some good messages about this. But I want to get into a relationship, because at the end of the day, what is the intent of having communication, or a good communication strategy is to ultimately create some type of relationship. Now, here's my question for you. How important is the relationship anymore? I know as I'm saying that, it's kind of hard for me to like come out of my mouth, but like, is it as important as it was before? All right. I want to hear your thoughts. No, go.
It's even more important, man. Why? Because of all the competition that's out there. You have the Carvanas, you have whatever else medium you could buy a vehicle. The manufacturer are kind of famous for pitting us against each other. Typically speaking, there's always, your competition, or like there's a Honda here and then there's a Honda 5 miles down the road, right? A little bit too close. So with regards to relationship, I think it's even more important for us specifically. Why? Because we're in a relationship business.
Yes.
Right. So there's two types of transactions, right?
Are we in the relationship? Okay. So here's I'm going to push back. I'm going to play devil's advocate, because
please push.
Me and you've been in the car business the same amount in that time. And when we were in the car business, it was all about the relationship. Today, when you look at consumer, surveys, it's all about the experience. It's the experience, Shawn. Give me a damn good experience.
Yeah.
So with that, what do you say?
Yeah, the experience. We need to just calm down a little bit. I mean, listen, we're fixing cars. I mean, the experience. Okay, so because this is the experience aspect has been pushed by the manufacturer, and in order for us to,
Is it the manufacturer or is it the customer or
I
both?
don't think it's the customer.
No, you
Are
don't.
you telling me right? Okay, so then let me ask you right now. Have you ever brought your car in for service anytime lately?
Yes. In fact, I just
Let's stop there. Let's do yes or no questions. Okay. So you had your service advisor, great people, some of my favorite people. My question is, would you quantify your experience as amazing just because I know the name of your dog and where you went on vacation 3 months ago? Am I expected to literally, I mean, a service advisor, in a medium to large shop is doing about 12 to 15 ROs per day,
sure.
right? Am I expected, that's hundreds at the end of the month. Am I expected to know absolutely every single person or even 50% on a personal level to create an experience? So
Well,
I think the definition of experience just needs to be looked at, because I think all the buzzwords about experience and all this stuff, like, we have only maybe 10, no, not even, it's like 5 to 8 minutes before we need to see the next person in order to get all these work orders in. So what kind of a relationship can I create in 5 minutes? I think the relationship is created from when they start the car. It's a journey. And I think much of this relationship that we speak about, because it ties into communication, much of this relationship that we speak about from a fixed ops perspective starts over the phone.
okay. Well, is that the relationship or is that the experience? All right, because and just let me give you a quick example. Okay, so I go to two different shops. We have two different vehicles, two very different needs. So I have to go to two different dealers for my servicing needs. All right, one I go to, and it's like the experience is that they were ready for me. Right? They're like, oh, I'm pulling up, and as I'm pulling up, they already know. They're opening the door. They're saying, "Hey, Mr. Harris, you're right on time for your appointment. We appreciate it. We'll take the keys from here," and that is it. Like they're not asking me 52 other questions to check me in. That is literally the extent of how that check-in process goes, right? Because I already communicated everything to the service advisor or whoever the rep was that I talked to over the phone. Da 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 da. Right? So that's a wildly different experience because they were. I feel like they were ready for me. Like they were anticipating. Hell, they actually somehow, and I think it's probably because I've been there a few times and my plate number is actually in their database because when they open the
Or
door,
do you also have an orange car?
could be that. It could be the orange car. But they'll open the door and they go, "Hello, Mr. Harris, welcome back." All right, let me take your keys, and then they're off. And I'm like, coffee's over there. Where the other place I go to, Shawn, I've been there probably 6 or 7 times. It's the same interview questions every time I go in. There's like 9 questions they have to go through. I'm like, dude, I have spent probably $6,000 with you guys over the last year, and you still don't even know who the hell I am. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox and get your thoughts on that.
So we're back to the word that I said before: systems. The people that you go to have a system in place.
Is this like a chick? Is this like the egg or the chicken? Like which came first? Is this the scenario we're kind of in? Is it the experience that ultimately over time generates the relationship? Because that was the opposite of when we were trained.
So
when we were trained, it was different. It was the relationship that defined the experience.
Yeah, but now it's different because everything is fast. I mean, listen, the human focus legitimately is what, 5 seconds, 7 seconds. Those days are past. However, the concept.
Are we getting old, Shawn? Are we getting old?
I don't say old. I say refined.
Okay.
I think listen, everything is in a constant state of transition. I think the key to all of this is to not get anchored. Not get anchored to any one specific thing. Be flexible, have a framework, have a blueprint, stick to what works. Now, with regards to what you were saying about, is it the chicken or the egg? I think, because I mentioned phases of construction, I think that's phase 2.
All right.
Ultimately, my opinion, of course, in order to create a guest experience, you first need to create an employee experience. Are the people that are coming happy to even be there? Are they acknowledged? Are we still just force feeding them hamburgers and hot dogs at the end of a good month? I mean, is there anything more insulting than that? And to people out there doing it, it's great and I applaud you. Cool. But I'm going to put in 60, 70, 8 hours a week of my time, especially at fixed stops, and bust my hump. And you're going to give me like 4, 5, 6 hot dogs? Like, I mean, I need a little bit more than that. So,
and by the way, Sean, you got 15 minutes to eat them because there's a car already sitting in your
yeah, exactly. Like, what message are you sending? So, like I was saying before, in order to create a customer experience, you need to create an employee experience. And as long as you take care of the people in your care, they're going to take care of the business. Jason, listen, that individual that's greeting you saying, "Hello, Mr. Harris," if they were disgruntled, if they got scolded, if they weren't acknowledged by leadership, if they weren't happy to be there, they wouldn't have done that.
No,
It's just kind of like when you see that piece of garbage on the floor. Some people will walk right over it and say, "I don't get paid to do that." And other people are in it, right? So I think it starts from the top down. And we've absolutely killed this conversation over the last 3-4 years about leadership and emotional intelligence. But look at what the number one dealers are doing. People are happy to work there. And when you take care of the people, they're going to take care of you. The idea is to not build a business. The idea is to build people and let your people build a business.
Okay, look, I like this because I think what we're kind of changing the script a little bit. It's not the how important is the relationship. It is more of the lines is the experience ultimately generating a relationship. And because I mean, how many times have we felt like companies have put so much stress on the importance of creating a relationship that it feels so robotic and candid to do this, right? We were talking a little bit that
Let's stop right there for a second, though, because I want to acknowledge what you said. This is so important. I want to stay here for a second. Yes, you're 100% right. We get pulled in. They're going to read to us at the end of the month. Service manager, general manager, who's ever doing these end of month meetings. I get it. Hey guys, we could do better. We failed at this score. Yada yada. I've been there before. Great. I get it. The fact that we're having a meeting, fantastic. My question is, what coaching have you put in place for me to get better? How do I create this experience that you speak of? If you're just looking at a question on a survey and saying, "Hey, listen, Shawn, you could be doing much better. We need you to do this. We need you to do that." I understand your words, but it's not like I wake up in the morning wanting to fail. So, have you resourced some kind of a consultant? Have we got some kind of coaching? Are we bringing somebody in that's going to kind of guide us and provide us resources or some kind of an indication of exactly how to do that? We have to remember something, Jason, that we live in an independent society, whereas our greatest achievements require interdependence.
It's true.
So if we're always in our little bubble doing our little thing, trying to get to the thing, trying to get to the goal, and we're not worried about the other people around us, well, then that's where your experience breaks down. So when you talk about an experience, I do get it, but it's a little bit more complex than just telling people what,
No.
Reading words off of a page and telling them what to do.
No, I'm glad you brought it up because experience. There's a difference between experiences happen regardless if you're intentional about it or not, right? They do. They just happen. It's an experience. You went. That's right. What you're talking about is creating intentional experiences, right? Where it's like you do process something that ultimately will create an experience. I had one at my service department, and at my service advisors hated it when I did it, but it was okay. I still did it anyways, and it created a great experience. I put the coffee machine behind the service advisors, not in the lounge. Right. And, the reason for that is because that it forced them to slow down. All right. During the check-in process, to take 2 minutes. All right. And, while the coffee was being made and handed over to them, you had the time to process. All right. A series of communications, a checklist. Right. But again, it was intentional. Right. And I think that's kind of the key here is like, if you're going to be creating an experience that's ultimately going to harvest a relationship, then you have to be intentional about it because it doesn't just happen on its own. You need a plan, you need a strategy, you need a series of processes that you're going to stress test, and whatever version 1 of that is not going to be the final version. You might go through 17 versions of it until you ultimately get to that, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's what got you here won't get you there.
It's a good one.
And that's what I meant by not being anchored. Like, okay, great, this is working, but the volatility, interest rates, everything is constantly changing. People are more strapped for cash. So to come in and have we changed our targets? To come in and say, hey, listen, on a high end, I want 2.8 hours per work order, or 3 hours per work order, or what have you. For people that are paying, $8, $9, $10 for a loaf of bread, the narrative has changed a little bit, but doing just enough is no longer enough. It's an ongoing process of disrupting your employees' current belief system and inspiring them to create new ones, which is exactly what I said before. When you prohibit failure, you kill innovation. So it's very important to manage the data, coach the people. Manage the data, coach the people. Especially, you have to also take into consideration this new drove of workforce of people that are coming in.
100%.
Don't forget, one of the biggest questions that I have, and I don't know if you can answer it or if you've seen it. So we're going into COVID. Everything gets shut down. People are getting their government check. Everybody disappears. We do a soft opening, and then we open up. Where have all these people gone? There's it's rough out there, right? So the people that were there, that were making things happen before, that have decided to whatever they're calling it now, silent quitting or whatever. I don't I'm not governed by these things, but it's a real thing. Like, where have these people went? So we have an opportunity right now to really kind of, I guess, re-architect it. Like you said, there's phases of construction. And I think step 1 is to understand, first of all, where you are and what needs to be done. There's a terminology, if I could share this with anybody out there. There's an approach that I was taught by somebody. This is not mine again, but there's an approach that I was taught that I actually use in my business today. It's called the 3 I's, right? So you identify, you investigate, and you isolate the issue. And you have to be able to break down your process in chunks, touch points. There's 11 to 12 touch points the minute that a customer calls the dealership. Like that one appointment service visit, there's 12 touch points, 12 different people or not departments, but 12 different junctions of the person when they first call the dealership. There's legitimately 12 different touch points that will make that experience. And I've broken those down, and that's how I build the BDCs, specifically on all 12.
Well, at the end of the day, that's just coming down to kind of the overlying theme of the entire topics today is really just being intentional. And you got to be intentional with your communication. You have to be intentional with your staff's experience. You need to be intentional with your customer experience. And it's just like nothing happens by accident. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like if you're not succeeding, more likely you're not being intentional. Look, I know we're towards the tail end of our time today, and Shawn, I know we can easily go another half an hour on this with no problem whatsoever. But hey, for everybody out there watching, listening right now, maybe want to continue some of this conversation with you. What's the best way to connect with you, Shawn?
Certainly on LinkedIn. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. I live and breathe on LinkedIn. My website is bdcalchemy.com. There's the connect button. You could just click on that, send me an email, or you could just email direct me at thebdcalchemist@gmail.com.
Awesome. Hey, man, thank you so much for taking the time today. And for everybody out there watching and listening, we appreciate you. But if you really want to give a little back to us, the best thing you can do is share this show. That's honestly the best compliment you can ever do for us, all right, is share the show. A lot of work and time goes into putting these things together, and that would be a great way of just a salute to us content makers out there. Hey, for everybody out there, again, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Shawn, again, thank you. Everyone, you have yourself an amazing day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.